Is this fancy?
Sorry?
Is that special?
It's a special one-on-one
No,
from
yeah.
with an atheist or a murtad in his case. Somebody, yes,
Okay. So,
Jeremy.
Jeremy, nice to meet you, Jeremy.
Nice to meet you.
I think in certain discussions that I've had, you've come and you've been very passionate.
That's it.
You've been heckling those
Yes,
discussions
yes.
and sharing your opinions. You're very vocal about your opinions.
Yes.
You said you're an atheist.
Yes.
You used to be a Muslim.
I used to be a Muslim. I turned my back on Islam.
Okay, Muslim from Iran.
The
from
reason,
Iraq?
yeah. Well, the reason for that is.
No, from where? Where were you based?
From the Middle East.
From the Middle East.
From the Middle East.
Well, not in my face.
And to be honest with you, with the actions of Arab leaders, Iranian leaders, Kurdish leaders, the way they were conducting themselves and the Ummah of Islam, I said to myself, I don't really want to be part of this religion anymore, because it just brings death and destruction, and I can't be bothered to live a life of a Muslim, to eat halal meat, to pray 5 times a day, to pay zakat, to do, to basically, marry 4 women. I just cannot handle that.
Okay, from your experience, whenever I have to add the word G to this, because obviously we're going to get censored. Whenever
What is G?
you'll understand when I say it. Whenever you hear of someone being raped,
Yeah.
who are the people committing the rape? Which gender mostly?
It's usually men.
Usually men. So because of that, is it fair if someone judges you and says because mostly men do it, therefore the issue is with you as well? Do you think that's fair?
I mean, you just had a feminist speaker here. There are feminists. There are men. There are.
I'm asking you.
Yes, but
What do you think?
you can't blame all men, but some men are mentally ill.
Okay.
I mean, I blame a mental illness.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying just because a few men
Yeah.
do a specific act,
Yeah.
you cannot blame.
Tarnish the whole men with the same brush.
So of course you've heard the Glasgow 7,
Yes.
yeah, who are abusing children,
Yes.
and they're all white people, and I'm sure
I've also heard of the Rotherham grooming gangs as
you've
well.
also heard of
Yes.
that. You've also heard of the Home Office,
Yeah.
a document that they said that majority of the grooming and the raping taking place are by white people. But surely you will not tarnish all of white people with the issue of grooming and raping, correct?
You cannot. No, you can't. You can't generalize. But at the end of the
And
day,
because of that, would you, if you see certain British people doing stuff, would you say, therefore, I hate Britain, I'm going to leave
no,
Britain,
no, I will fight for
I'm going to give
will
up
protect-
my,
no.
you've got a red passport, yeah?
Yes, yes.
So I would give up my red passport, for this. So I'm trying to be consistent here.
Yes.
Trying to say that if you apply this principle that you cannot judge the few by the majority, I'm interested to see why you're doing this when it comes to Muslims.
So far as I'm concerned, I have first-class experience with Muslims, because I mean, I live in the area where it's dominated by Muslims, halal shops, halal restaurants, shisha shops, everything, right? And the way I see it is that why is it that 90% or 95% of the people who are coming in by boats from Calais to Dover, paying 5,000-6,000 euros, are from Islamic countries like Iran, like Afghanistan, like Pakistan, like Somalia? Like,
Why do you think that is?
Why? I think because their leaders are treating them with such empathy. They're treating them like dogs, and
Empathy?
Apathy. Sorry.
Apathy.
So therefore, they're running away from a oppressed Islamic religious regime.
Sorry, it just caught my eye. Oh.
US polo.
No, but because you were covering the N, it looked like polo ass. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, what are you promoting here?
So-
Okay. But I'm sure you.
So you, what, can you, all right, so can you answer me this question then? Who are the majority people who are coming in by boat? Are they not Muslims?
Statistically speaking, most of the immigrants coming in are from Nigeria and India.
Yeah, but they're coming in on student visas, not on boats. I'll be honest with you.
By
I've seen-
boats?
because you have record migration in this country now. You got last year you had 800 or 900. They revised the figures. They even initially they said 600,000. 2 hours later they said actually it's 900,000.
Yeah.
They don't even know
Yeah.
how many people are immigrating to this country.
So if they don't know, then surely they're not going to know how many people are coming in via boats.
then
either.
there are no checks and balances in this country.
So how can you assume certainly that it is this particular religion or this particular?
I'll tell you why. If you go, just like I did, if you go to Calais or Dover, right, and you will see the jungle, which I've been to, because I do a lot of, and I've seen, I go to the jungle,
All these people come here.
and most of them are Muslims
No.
who are running away
Not
from
with
Islam.
Leave
He's
Islam
heckling you.
alone.
He's
They're not
heckling you
Muslim.
now
Leave
as well.
Islam alone.
What?
Don't put
Don't worry,
Islam.
we'll speak.
Leave
Yeah,
Islam
yeah.
alone.
Okay, so
Disrespect her.
so yeah, basically.
Did you
If
remember
Islam
when
is
you
so
come to this
perfect,
country?
why
Yes
is it
or
that
no?
it's suppressing its own people, making them run away? I mean, why doesn't an Emirati guy ever come illegally? Why doesn't a Saudi guy ever come here illegally? Why doesn't a Kuwaiti guy, Bahraini guy, Omani guy come here illegally? In fact, Emirates has the best #1 passport in the world. You can travel visa-free with an Emirati passport to 190 countries.
That's why there's approximately 15 million expats from Europe there.
Mainly
That's
from
why.
India and Pakistan. I tell you what, if you say that,
Wait, you've mentioned a few things. I want to address your points one by one, just so you.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay, so
remember,
the first
I
point
remember you
was.
when you come young.
Wait, one
Question.
second. One
I
second.
remember you,
Okay, so
when you
with
come to
regards
this
to
country,
the immigrants, when you're
as your
saying
daddy,
why
what
are
he
the
did with
immigrants,
your daddy, the politicians of
naturally
Saudi
immigrants
Arabia
aren't
and
going to be
Iranians.
coming from France
Remember the
because
time.
France is a stable country.
That's right.
They're not going to be coming from Spain. Spain is a stable country.
Emirates.
Syria is not a stable country.
No.
Afghanistan is not a stable country. Iraq is not a stable country. And just out of interest, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, they have been invaded and
Yemen.
they have had issues with countries primarily from where?
By their own people, by their own leaders.
No.
By their own
Who have been the invaders dropping giant bombs on them?
Can I ask you? He's
Let-
talking
let-
about
let me
Iraq.
give you some example.
He's talking
One
about
second,
Iraq.
one second.
First of all,
Wait, one
Iraq
second.
and Iran
One
had a
second.
bloody war
One second.
where 1
You
million
spoke
people-
for 5
Yes,
minutes
yes,
and I
yes.
gave
Who
you.
started?
So there's a
Who
lot.
started? Saddam Hussein.
There's
No,
a-
he was your dad.
Brother.
Oh, excuse
One
me.
second,
Oh,
one
don't call
second.
your brother. I
One
know his
second,
dad.
One second.
Your father, you start. No. Your father start. Yes. I know his
if
father
you
was
give
a
him
journalist
attention, then
at the time from Iran.
I'm not even talking to you.
No.
Okay.
His father is
Okay, so here's the thing.
So can we go back to Afghanistan and
Let me know
say-
if the sun becomes
No,
too much.
no,
It seems
it's
all
not.
right.
Yeah.
So,
can
just
we
to
go,
just to add
can
in,
we go to the Tora Bora bombing of Afghanistan?
We will- we'll go-
carpet bombing that.
I'm with
Can
you.
we move? Yes.
I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So we can go through all of these topics. But what you did at the beginning
Yeah.
was you mentioned like a
Yeah,
you mentioned like a principle.
refugees coming from Islamic
Yeah, you mentioned like a
countries.
principle thing, and now I have to unpack that principle. So then, when you look at Syria, you do know that the Americans are actively involved in Syria.
Yes.
Bombs are being dropped there, and you know the
And
British.
jihadis from England went to Syria, like Jihadi John, to behead people
And you also
from
know,
Ladbroke Grove.
and you also know that the Canadian Secret Services
Yes,
and the British
yes.
Secret Services allowed multiple Brits to go into Syria as well.
From Turkey, yes.
Yeah, this is
Documented. This
is
is
documented.
Proved, yeah.
So it's not that it's people of a certain, no, it's the British understanding and leveraging things that are useful for them for their national interests, like Theresa May said. If somebody asked about killing children in Syria, she said, look, if they die, it's terrible and this and
Collateral
that.
damage.
But she says if it's part of our national interest, then we will do what we need to do. But I'm sure you also agree what's going on in Israel at the moment, in Palestine rather at the moment. The British are involved. Their
Of course
weapons
they
are
are.
found. Yes.
Yeah,
So now,
they're using British
now,
made weapons.
when that's happening, on the one hand, we're seeing Spain is stable, France is stable,
England is stable.
England is stable as well. But we know Syria is not stable. We
Yeah.
know Iraq is not
not
stable.
stable, yeah.
We know Syria is not stable. So common sense tells us that the people from war-torn countries
Yes.
naturally will be in a desperate and dire state, and they will do whatever they can to survive. You
And
understand
yes,
that?
yes, I understand.
And they will
that.
come
I
wherever the
understand
borders
that.
are open.
Yeah.
Some people, I'm sure you're aware, certain right-wing people here say that there are certain people that are allowing more refugees to come in here and dilute the British culture.
Yes.
I haven't looked into that. They talk about the
But
Great
then
Replacement.
I see the refugees. I live amongst them. They do contribute. They're all working in car washes, in hairdressing salons, and building projects.
healthcare system
And the healthcare system with the Filipinos. I
Yeah.
mean, you got the buses run by the West Indian, Jamaicans, on the old underground. So basically it's a cosmopolitan city where, live and let live.
And let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Out of all of the countries, who is the only country to have ever dropped an atom bomb on people that were ready to surrender? America.
USA.
Okay,
Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Which country has more than 50 military bases worldwide?
America.
America.
You know why?
Who has the biggest military budget worldwide?
Because it's the international policeman of the world. If there is trouble in the Middle East, they call on America. If there is trouble in the Philippines, they call on America. If there's trouble in Grenada, they call on America. America, Russia doesn't come to your aid. It's self-serving at the end of the day.
But do you know that America, since World War II, has tried to overthrow 30 democratically elected leaders?
Yes.
And interfering
Yeah,
in elections.
the CIA.
Which police? And you also
CIA.
mentioned the CIA. Mike, what's his name?
Mike Pompeo.
Mike Pompeo.
yeah.
He said our duty in the CIA, we were training people to lie, cheat, and steal.
Yes.
So you know as well as I do, these people that you have labeled as the
Yes.
police, they are trying to overthrow, they are trying to interrupt, and they are trying to bomb countries that are democratically elected. What's your police?
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do to survive and keep your nation safe and democracy.
And I get that.
Freedom working.
I get that, but when you're now putting them on a pedestal and saying, no,
They're the international policemen
yeah,
of the world.
that's where it becomes an issue, because international police needs to have an objective stance and not
Okay.
put their own
All right.
national interests on
Okay.
the fore. Yeah.
If we keep America checked, for example, Saddam Hussein will invade Kuwait. Kuwait will be part of Iraq right
Why
now.
is Kuwait such a problem?
Because
Why does
Kuwait,
it matter what happens to Kuwait?
Because Kuwait is a number
honest,
one
be
oil
honest.
supplier.
There you go.
Right? Can I just tell you something? All of you guys sitting at home today watching this, your life will stop if there is if the Straits of Hormuz get blockaded by Iran tomorrow. There will be hyperinflation. There will be starvation. There will be people on the streets. Tesco's shelves will be empty, just like with the toilet paper during the pandemic. So really, all of your lives depend on oil and the flow of oil.
Now, this is what's interesting as well, because Britain has been feeding and keeping the beast that we know, Israel, alive. Yeah, Biden said if there was no Israel, we would have created an Israel, because obviously the dynamics or whatever the case may be over there. We know over here, because of the immense amount of money that's been pumped into Israel, people are literally living hand to mouth with inflation, rising electric bills. Forget the Strait of Hormuz or whatnot.
Yeah.
Now we're struggling when it comes to the things that you've mentioned: milk, bread, toilet paper. All of these things are going up. People are struggling with house prices. Why? Because we have to keep alive Israel, who has literally given us very little to no benefit whatsoever.
Well,
Israel actually has been a liability. So when you're talking about policing and stuff like this,
I'll be honest with you. Judaism is the oldest religion. It's 4,750 years old. Jews have already
Hinduism predates that.
Yeah, Hinduism.
But being old doesn't mean that it's correct.
Yeah, but then it's not a monothelic, as they say. It's not one of the three.
Well, we
religions.
say
It's
Islam
not an
was.
Abrahamic.
Well, we say a Prophet Adam
Yes.
was a Muslim. We don't believe Islam started only 1400 years ago with the Prophet Muhammad. We believe that all the prophets were Muslims. They practiced and they preached monotheism.
Yes.
And we don't believe that they were sleeping with their own daughters and stuff like that, as is mentioned in the Bible.
So
etc.
basically, what my point is that Moses led his people from bondage in Egypt by Pharaoh. I mean, this is all a true story. Through the Sinai Desert into the Promised Land.
How do you know it's a true story?
So do you think Moses never existed? Was he not brought up by the pharaohs?
We do because we believe in the Quran, but you're an atheist, so I'm curious to know where you get this information from.
Well, I've seen the film Cecil B. DeMille's.
Which film?
The Ten Commandments.
Which film?
The Ten Commandments. I mean, with Charlton Heston.
I also
he won an Oscar for that.
I also won. I also watched Benjamin Button as well.
Yeah, Benjamin Button, the life and story of Benjamin Button, and Harry Potter.
No, but Benjamin Button, they won an Oscar for Benjamin Button as well. But it doesn't mean that I believe that a person starts. I'm not going to use that as an evidence and an argument. So just because you've seen a movie.
So
you mentioned Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. So you don't believe?
I do. I'm curious to know what you believe.
So it's in the Bible. That's why you believe.
Yeah,
it.
He believes he's an atheist.
No, I'm an atheist. But at the end of the day, I believe history cannot be lie. You can't lie through history. I mean,
So
historically,
what history are you referring
the land of Palestine
Right.
was promised by God to the Israelites.
But you don't believe in God.
It's history. I don't believe in God, but it's history. Historically.
Yeah, but they
No,
lost,
according
they
to you,
lost-
according to you, it's mythology, not history.
the covenant was conditional.
Historically,
The covenant was conditional.
I mean,
and then when
I
they betrayed Jesus,
yeah,
right,
when they betrayed
then
Jesus.
they lost that covenant.
Bro, where's my water
They
bottle?
lost being the chosen people.
Right.
They ceased to be the chosen people anymore.
But they did lose 6.5 million in the Holocaust.
No, they didn't.
Yes, you denying the Holocaust? Though?
Absolutely.
You know it's a criminal offence to deny the Holocaust.
No, it ain't.
It's, of course it is.
Well, then what's
it is a
so that?
criminal
So
offence.
that's such.
Yeah,
You say that down
you're
Speaker's Corner.
Right, hang
When
on
we
a
have
minute.
free
Technically,
speech.
he hasn't denied
Yeah,
the
but
Holocaust.
no, he said there are 6.5 million people who
He's
died.
questioning the number. He's not
number.
questioning the.
Yeah.
Well,
Look, the Holocaust. Look,
Yeah,
you could get newspapers in round about 1900.
so how many people do you think lost their lives?
Well, I think maybe I listened to what
you.
Eustace Mullins said, and maybe, just maybe, the Zionists were in control of the
Holocaust.
of the concentration camps. If you
So what? Adolf Eichmann was a Zionist.
no, I'm saying the SS were in control.
Yeah.
Have you heard what Eustace Mullins says? Eustace Mullins.
I've never heard of
Eustace Mullins. Well, you can Google up. There was thousands of Jews in the German army.
Right.
And they were Zionists. Only 2 flags were allowed to be flown in
the Star of David and the SS flag.
And the swastika. Yeah. So they had a relationship.
I think you're
the
deluded.
The Havar Agreement.
I think
200,000.
You've mentioned that before,
Yeah.
and I think it's
What,
baloney.
What? No, he got approached in 19. As soon as he got in power, World Judaism declared war on Adolf Hitler, right? But a certain sect of Zionism said actually, they don't.
So how many people actually were murdered in the
200,000.
Holocaust?
None virtually. I mean, maybe killed by their own people. But we know for a fact that Stalin built the I don't know,
Gulags.
the gas chambers or whatever they was supposed to be post World War II in Auschwitz because there was no
evidence.
There was no evidence of the Holocaust in the Western, because we couldn't find any. But they said, "Oh, it all happened in the Eastern section."
But he
Just that-
probably saw a movie.
Have you ever been to the British Library? Right. Have you got, it's restricted access. You have to do research to be able to get there. But if you go and look in the British Library, have you been to Jerusalem, a place called Yad Vashem?
I've never been to Jerusalem.
It's a Holocaust museum.
I bet it is. Yeah.
All of the people who died in the Holocaust have massive books, and you can look them up. You can look up their names.
They all get compensation and all, don't they?
They all got compensation.
Yeah.
They all
That's why they got their names in the books.
No.
Yeah.
Germany is still paying restitution.
Yeah, I know. But it's
Because
not the same Germans that are running Germany as what's running it today. When
No, they're
Olaf
liberal.
Scholz stands next to Joe Biden when he says, I'm going to destroy the Nord Stream pipeline, and he says nothing. They're not for Germany. These people
Anyway.
that are running Germany today.
Scott Ritter, yeah.
So you've admitted that these countries have been destabilized, and it's not necessarily because of their religion that they're coming here. They're coming because they are literally surviving and trying to, put food on the table
Yeah.
and hide from the bombs that these countries are dropping on them. For example, in
What about
Afghanistan,
their leaders?
for example,
what about the Iraqi
I will tell you.
parliament?
I will tell you.
Are they not thieves?
For example, the dropping, they called it the mother of all bombs.
Yes.
On Afghanistan.
Yes.
Yeah, they dropped
1,000 pound
depleted uranium and white phosphorus
Yeah.
that literally melts the skin and goes through the bone. Depleted uranium, which rendered at least a quarter to a half of the population of Iraq with cancer.
Can I
So
ask
now
you-
those people that are literally trying to live hand to feet, literally trying to survive, those people now have to have somewhere to live.
Right.
Because now the oil-bearing principality of Iraq now has to be kept divided, because you've got the likes of Lord Crew that has mentioned in Secret Affairs of Mark Curtis. He's made it clear that the likes of Lord Crew said it's within our national interest to keep the oil-bearing principalities separate, divided. France doesn't have an oil-bearing principality. Kuwait does.
Yes.
Spain doesn't have an oil-bearing.
Sovereign wealth fund.
Whatever the case may be, but it's the oil that's been the issue, number one. And number two, the Ottoman Empire, of course, has been an issue, and it's within their interest to keep it divided
Right.
and separate.
Right.
Now, when you say that, because this Muslim leader has done something bad, firstly, what classifies him as a Muslim leader? And number two, just because he's done something bad, how is that representative of the entire Muslim population?
Because the people who are living in those countries cannot rise up against a leader like Sisi, like Khamenei, like
Yes, they
Sheikh
can't.
No, like
Then why are you
Bin
blaming them
Salman.
then?
Huh?
Why are you blaming
But
the people?
they're under the banner of Islam. They're not under the banner of Christianity.
Right. So in
Yeah.
Israel, I'm
Yeah.
sure you understand that Israel, at the very least, we can say are doing really atrocious things, correct?
Close to genocide.
Okay, good. Okay, fantastic. So, will you say every single Israeli
Yeah.
is a bad person
No.
because
No,
why
no.
the double standards here?
No. You know what?
The vast
I have
majority
very
of
good-
the Israeli
yeah.
population
Yeah.
are supporting the genocide in the Gaza Strip.
But you would
Are-
not. Yeah, they are.
supporting it.
They
The
are.
vast majority.
Yeah, but then,
it's
but then
overwhelmingly.
can I flip it on the other side? And
No, you already have.
Who started
Why are
October
they-
the 7th?
Wait, one
Oh, that
second.
was a deal done with
That was a deal.
Netanyahu.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
because there was on the point of
Oh,
the
so
civil
he
war.
knew that they...
Wait,
That's
he's
why
trying
they
to run,
stepped
he's
down
trying
for
to
7
run.
hours.
Yeah.
Wait,
You
one second,
can't
one
Who
second.
started
Wait.
October the 7th?
Even before that,
Yeah.
you gave a principle, yeah, and you said if people don't rise up against an authoritarian leader, the people are to be held responsible,
Yeah.
which is like a collective punishment that's being
It's
assumed
a
over here.
collective punishment,
Then, which are you okay with collective punishment?
Well, no, I'm not okay with
Okay, that's good. That's good.
collective punishment, yeah.
But let me come back to the point. But then when I said that you have despicable Israeli leadership and the majority of the Israelis that are okay with what he's doing, but you're saying we can't blame the whole of Israel or the Israeli population. Why?
Why? Because at the end of the day, there are passive Jews, there are Zionist Jews. The Zionist
But your
agenda-
principle
yeah,
was
yeah, there
standing up against
there-
leadership.
there are
They're not doing
liberal-
that.
There are liberal Jews who are against it.
Well, there's
who are-
liberal Muslims.
yeah,
there are people
liberal-
that are unhappy
yeah.
with what's going on.
What about
they
the
are
fact that
standing.
the IDF wear that badge on their arm,
Well, the
which
Psalm
shows you the
David.
map of Greater
Israel.
Israel,
Yeah.
which includes northern Saudi Arabia,
Yeah, from the
Syria,
river to the sea.
well, from the Euphrates to the River Nile.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like Syria,
So they're-
Iraq,
Yeah.
So they're
Jordan.
there to grab. But I saw.
Lebanon.
I've been to Israel, right?
They're
And I-
wearing
and
it
I've
on their
spoken- and
arms.
I've
They
They're
are,
wearing
yeah.
it. They're
You know,
wearing this map of Greater Israel.
It's sewn into their
Palestinians live side by side with in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem. Palestinians and Israelis live work side by side. I mean,
Is it an apartheid state?
I don't. Well, if you go to places like Jenin or Hebron, it is like an apartheid state because they do control.
Is the West Bank allowed to vote in Israeli
No,
elections?
they can't. They can't. But there are Arab Israelis who are living in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. There are bus drivers, taxi drivers.
So what? There are
Yeah,
Hindus
they're-
living in India. There are Christians living in Pakistan. And there are Pakistanis that are unhappy with the government speaking out. People unhappy with Iraq. So according to your
As a
principle,
Muslim-
wait. According to your principle, if there are different groups that disagree with what the government are saying, therefore you can't hold the populace to blame. So which is the standard you've used for Israel? I'm saying that standard can be used for Iraq, it can be used for Syria, it can be used for Iran. It's used for all of these countries. You can't say all of the population agrees with the leadership.
Well, if you have elections, for example, in Iran, you know, usually one of the chosen supreme leaders candidate wins.
Well,
right?
once upon a
For
time,
example-
once upon a time there were
Yeah.
elections, democratic elections, might I add.
yeah.
Well, one person comes to mind, Mohammad Mossadegh, and he was liberal, democratic, and
1957.
he does, very little Islamic thing about
He
him.
wanted to
However,
nationalize the oil.
there you go, the
He wants to
oil.
yes.
What about the fact that Iranians don't believe in having a nuclear weapon because it's against their religion to actually
But
use
you know
such
as well
an
as
evil
I do.
weapon against
You
human-
know.
They could have had a nuclear weapon donkeys years ago, right? All this propaganda we get that Israel's bombing them again to stop them. They didn't, but now I believe they probably have
You
got
know
one
as well as
because
I
they've
do.
had to. They only have one on to protect their society from being destroyed.
The reason there is a
I was shocked when I heard that. I didn't know that.
I've
I've
developed a
learned
weapon.
Pardon? Yeah,
To develop
they
a
got
weapon.
some of the 10 top, according to Professor Morandi, right?
Yeah.
They got the
But-
top
by
10
the way-
scientific nuclear scientists in the world, but they chose not to build a nuclear weapon
You believe
because it's
Profe-
against
you
their
believe
religion.
Professor Morandi, who's paid by the, by the Iranian government, who are butchering their own citizens.
Oh, do you believe that?
No, really? Well,
I don't believe that. You're listening to Mao-Tuzi too much.
In 2022,
Yes.
the UNGA,
Yeah.
they got the Middle Eastern countries together and said, well, let's create a nuclear-free zone.
Right.
And there was a vote that took place, but only one
Donald Trump.
country said no, and they vetoed it. Guess what that country was?
You would say Iran,
No, Israel.
Israel.
And what about Donald Trump taking them out of that nuclear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, they
He told-
chose not. They don't want a nuclear
Yeah, but
weapon.
they're oppressing.
They're a highly
they're
religious
oppressing
land.
They're oppressing. You can't wear shorts in Iran as a man. You
I'm
cannot-
not here to tell
So
other
what
countries.
does that mean
I'm
that
not
you
here.
cannot bomb them?
I'm not here to
that
tell
doesn't
other
mean-
They're
countries
oppressing their
what to
own-
do
What
in
to
their
do,
own
yeah.
country.
Yeah, they're
I'm not
oppressing-
here
it's up
to
to
bring
them what they wanna
liberal
do.
standards to Iran or to China.
Can
I'm
I
not here
tell
to
you-
go into Afghanistan and tell their women they have to be educated like Western women.
Even
What
Donald
they
Trump.
do.
Even
Yeah.
Donald Trump said this.
Yeah.
He was
The
like,
biggest-
I go in there. They want to cover up.
This is the
Why are
trouble.
we telling them not to cover up?
When you get rid of Hosni Mubarak, right, and you tell Egypt we're going to have free and fair elections, and they vote the Muslim Brotherhood in, then 11 months later, because
Yeah.
you pay for the Egyptian military, America tell them get rid of that guy and put a puppet in,
Yeah.
and that's what they've done.
Well, that's
And they've done the same in
Well-
Pakistan because they pay for the Pakistan military. Get rid of Imran Khan.
Yeah, because
right?
he's anti-corruption.
Well,
because
it's nothing to do with America.
Pakistan
When is America going to get rid of its
traditionally
800
is a corrupt
bases?
So
country.
he's saying America is acting
Yeah,
and is
international
the,
policeman of the
and I'm
world.
saying what's
Well,
police?
international dictator. Anyway, it's all over. The unipolar world that we live in is finished. Right?
I know
We-
you're pro-Russia.
It's not
Your
that
man
bad.
Putin is going to be finished soon.
No, he's what
Yes,
do
he
you
is.
mean? He's just.
Yeah, look at Syria.
Putin hasn't invaded
Syria-
30 democratically
15,000,
elected
yeah.
countries.
Right. Look at Syria. He was propping up the regime there. He just blinked, and the Islamist jihadists. took
15,000 of them. They've had
over. 50. He was,
How long do you think they're
Right.
going to be there for?
How long are they going to be
I
there
think this
for?
time next week when we
No.
come back here.
Are you going to bet on this? You
How comes ISIS never attack Israelis?
Listen, they're halfway. Listen, can I just tell you something? Bashar al-Assad is on a plane to Moscow
I don't
with his
believe it.
family.
What?
He's already fled.
He stood there all last time.
Look, when I already
I
told
have
you.
on good authority.
I already told you John Kerry what he said,
John- you
and
told
John
me.
Kerry was like that. We allowed ISIS to grow because we wanted to use them as a counterweight against Bashar al-Assad. In other words, they don't care about this policing the communities or the countries. They're interested in looking after their national interests.
Yeah.
The only reason they dropped the atom bombs, they knew, and it was on good authority
No.
that
the Japanese never wanted to
they
surrender.
did. They did. It's
Come off
clear.
it.
Come on.
Read
Look,
people's history.
What about Pearl
read,
Harbor?
wait.
The Japanese were
Read
set up.
People's History of America by Howard Zen.
Right.
Yeah, he gives enough evidence in there to say that it had reached America, that they were ready to surrender. However, they wanted to
What
drop
about the
it.
Battle of
To make
they
an
wanted to drop
example
it,
for the rest of the world.
and mostly against the communists to put them at bay.
Of course they did.
Kamikaze pilots that were going into.
So they love their country. We
so they
spoke
love
about
their
it on the
country.
last video that Pearl Harbor was created. Pearl Harbor was created. I'll have another one, and then they're lovely. Pearl Harbor was created because they took the League of Nations under Franklin Delano
Was that a
Roosevelt.
false flag operation then?
No,
It was real.
They knew
You admit to
they
that.
broke the Japanese
okay,
code.
wait. Let me give him some facts. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey in 1944 said Japan, I quote them, Japan would have surrendered.
Yes.
Yeah? And then he goes on, and it's mentioned again that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were picked because of their population.
And one of them
100,000,
cities was Christian.
50,000.
Christian.
One
And
of the
then
most Christian cities in Japan.
and the Japanese code had been broken.
Yeah.
Martin Sherwin says that
just said that.
intercepted wires to Moscow of Japan's surrender were conveyed to the US president. I go further. General Leslie Groves, head of the Manhattan Project, said momentum was too great to stop it. And finally, PMS Blackett, a British scientist, said the US were anxious to drop it before the Russians joined.
So you got this evidence. Why wasn't was it Truman or was it
Harry
Roosevelt?
S. Truman, but Roosevelt was dead by then.
Roosevelt was dead by then. Why wasn't Truman actually indicted by the ICC as they did with Benjamin Netanyahu falsely and Yoav Gallant?
The ICC wasn't created until post-Bretton Woods.
Yes, because as far as I'm concerned, Mohammed bin
The victors
Salman
write history.
has killed more Muslims than Benjamin Netanyahu.
Why
has.
wasn't Bomber Harris?
Netanyahu's committing a genocide.
Why
He admitted
wasn't
it.
Bomber Harris at the
killed-
Nuremberg trials? Because the victors do not go to war crimes trials.
Yes.
That's the truth of it.
You know?
That's spitting
You
bars.
know? Can I tell you, Saddam Hussein killed more Muslims than Netanyahu ever did, right? He was, and that guy, what's his name, Bashir
Look,
of Sudan.
I heard you earlier, right? Mossad and the CIA
Are-
done the Twin Towers. That's 100%.
Is that why you believe in that
Well,
conspiracy?
Silverman, what's his name? Khan.
Who's
Yes,
the
Set it
one-
up
Khan,
and
yeah.
fit it up.
Who's a
requested
Muslim?
the,
Who's a Muslim?
Yeah,
Well,
and
not
he
technically,
he
he's a
dare
Qadiani.
say
We don't accept him as a
Netanyahu
Muslim.
has committed genocide, so all of a sudden next week he's getting sex crimes.
So he checked with 6 legal experts
Yes.
before even putting this forward, and one of those legal experts was Theodore Meron.
Yes.
Yeah, who is a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor, who's a former legal advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. He's a former Israeli ambassador to the UN, a former judge on the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and Yugoslavia.
Oh, you love all that, yeah.
And he is the one who said, yes, there is a plausible, he was for it. He was one of the legal experts that was consulted with regards to the arrest warrants.
to arrest warrant,
So
yeah.
I'm interested to see why you think that they shouldn't be arrested. Because I thought you were thinking it's genocide.
Well, no.
You said it's a plausible genocide, right?
They are allowed to defend themselves.
By...
If Hamas.
Oh, you've seen the video of Netanyahu
if
saying that
Hamas
in
was allowed to
2002.
continue its assault into Israel.
Okay, let me ask
it
you
would have
something.
taken more hostages. It would
let
have
me
killed
ask you
more
something.
people.
No,
Already
no,
it killed
under the
1,000
Hannibal directive, after 7 hours of standing down, the IDF, probably with their Greater Israel badges on their arm, came in with Apache helicopters and Abraham tanks, blew the buildings up, right? Blowing off the arms and legs and heads off of women and children hostages. And then
So you think that was a false
because
flag?
Zionists
That was
control
false.
the media, right? They can control the narrative. And some Israeli IDF soldier comes out and says, I don't know what's going on in that building, but all the women and children's heads have been cut off. Right? And then the whole world run with that story.
What about the jihadis' own videos that were showing murdering people and shooting them and everything?
When do we ever
Hamas-
take
Maybe they
when do
killed
we
a few
ever
soldiers
take
that fought back.
videos uploaded and claimed that these people are I mean there's videos there's video in fact forget videos let's park the videos to the side. There's a New York Times article that came under a lot of flack. There were like 60 healthcare experts that went there, and 3 I counted 4 4 American medics Here's what they said. After looking at the x-rays, the children that were killed, they were either shot in the chest or they were shot in the head.
So you mean it was a blue-on-blue operation by the Israeli army?
No, I'm telling you, I'm telling you that medics have gone there in the genocide and they have said and published the x-rays saying children are being shot in the head and the chest. My friend, how is that? How is that self-defense?
No.
Under the Hannibal directive.
Is that self-defense?
Have you looked up the Hannibal directive?
Is that self-defense?
I take the narrative whereby the 1,320 Israelis were murdered by Hamas terrorists that day.
What about 70% since then of the killings that have taken place of women and children? How is that defending yourself?
Well, okay.
According to the BBC.
Okay. So I am going to go.
Is that self-defense?
I am a basic midget. I go and slap Mike Tyson in the face and expect no retaliation from him.
If Mike Tyson starts wiping out your entire lineage, then Mike Tyson should be
collective
arrested.
punishment.
Yes.
It becomes collective punishment.
Yeah.
The
Which is
Hamas,
it.
every church, every mosque, and churches in
Hamas knew what
the
was-
Gaza Strip,
Hamas knew
every
the-
school.
Hamas knew the consequences.
35,000 children. 35,000 children have been amputated either a heart, an arm, or a hand, or a foot, or a leg. 35,000 children. 35,000
Right.
women and
Hamas
children.
has a command-
35,000 women and children, separate from the amputation.
They didn't
have been
wake up
killed.
on this
That's
October
the only
the
ones
7th.
that they could find. What about those
They
buried under the
didn't wake
rubble?
up on October the 7th and said, "Excuse me."
So,
we're just
so
gonna-
because of what happened on
They-
October
they-
the 7th,
they-
you can flatten 2.3 million people's homes. Is that what you're saying?
They say
It's
it's going to
excessive.
take. They say it's going to take 10 to 15 years to just get rid of the rubble, just to get rid of the rubble.
Yes,
and
thanks,
Israel,
yeah.
Israel, let alone allowing concrete to even come in, which again they're not
Yeah.
allowing to come in. Forget concrete, they're not allowing wedding dresses and chocolate to come in because apparently that can be used by terrorists to. Bro, what is this? How is this
no,
self-defense?
no.
On the level.
Yeah.
Is that self-defense?
It is excessive. It is excessive.
And the fact that the ICC have risked, these people have risked their lives, they will be
despite
killed,
that,
those people in the
Hamas
ICC.
can
to put-
can start negotiation to release the 101 hostages tomorrow. If
They did.
Want.
They did.
Really?
But the Israel, whenever talks happen, they're just simply not interested. We've got
What
objective.
about the women and children,
really
Palestinians,
thought- we
that have been
really
taken
thought
hostage?
by the
Where
killing-
they've actually debated in the Knesset of raping the what's the word? Whether it's right or wrong
Yeah,
to buggerize,
sodomize.
sodomize men, women, and children. When
Bet-
that have
bet-
been
bet selling-
they actually debated that in the Knesset.
They actually did. It was up for debate if you can rape men in prison. In fact, there's a report that's been
rights
released
and
by
wrongs.
Bet Salim called Welcome to Hell,
Yeah.
in which 10,000 prisoners are being tortured in the prisons. How is that self-defense? How is that
What do you
getting
have
rid
to
of the
say about
hostages?
that? What do you have to say about that?
At the end of the day, Israel is an UN-recognized state.
They're a rogue state.
No, they're
rogue.
They're a terrorist
criminal
state.
state.
They're an apartheid state.
They're not an apartheid state.
They
I
are an
don't think-
apartheid.
I
What about the West Bank? Don't they
agree
get the
that's
vote?
apartheid.
My friend, going.
I'm going up here.
Can I tell you something?
You want to come over? Come. Yeah, all right, I'll have a coffee. Do you want me to hold your sign for you? Yeah.
Normal coffee.
Yeah, just strong. No sugar. Yes, please, yeah.
By the way,
I'm holding this up for
every 10,000
this. What's your first name again?
crossing the border.
Rahana.
To work in Israel.
Rahana's brother was killed by MI6 in Pakistan.
I know we did a video about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I'll just
we've
put
done a
that
video.
there.
10,000 workers every day cross the border from Gaza to go to work in Israel.
Oh, what, from the West Bank? Oh, from
I thought you
Gaza.
were telling me how many
Gaza.
Palestinians
Not
are being
anymore,
killed
they
there.
do. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
You know what? And they don't have a voice because they can't speak against Hamas. Hamas tortures them.
Do you
If they
know there
speak
can never be a...
against-
You know why there
Have you
can't
ever
be a
wondered why
two-state
they don't
solution?
have
When
a
October 7th happened, what did they say? We're going to shut off the electricity, we're going to shut off the water.
Because 1,300.
How is that?
Because 1,300.
Is that okay? That's collective punishment. You disagree with collective punishment. Is that not collective punishment?
It's a well. Look, how about if London was bombed?
Yeah.
How
so
about if London? If you
if Keir Starmer does something
Yeah.
and somebody collectively punishes all of us, do you think that's fair?
yeah, you know what?
Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's fair? It's not, is it?
It's not fair.
Thank you.
It's not fair. But
There
at
you
the
go.
end of the day, we are looking for a
Terrorist state. Rogue
a
state.
crushing response.
Who cares about crushing
Crushing
response?
response.
It's
A
against the
collective
international law.
responsibility, a collective
Crushing-
punishment
to teach them a
response.
lesson, right?
So genocide is a crushing response.
You know, at the end of
Committing
the day,
genocide. Are you okay with that?
I remember Yasser Arafat.
I don't-
negotiate-
Yasser Arafat didn't do genocide.
No, I remember. Yeah, he used to be a terrorist.
But did he
He
do a
was the
genocide
chairman
No,
of
to
he
the
this
did.
level?
Yeah, he was a chairman.
He wasn't my cup of tea.
So
He
Did he
was
flatten an
socialist.
entire
so was
country?
Nelson Mandela, who was a chairman of the ANC, but he was still a
Did he
terrorist.
flatten an entire
He used to
country?
he used to put bombs in railway stations. I'm
Israel
sorry.
has dropped more bombs, and the amount of bombs collectively more than what was dropped on
It was
Hiroshima and
surprise-
Nagasaki.
Well,
You're telling me Yasser Arafat did that?
No,
Forget
Yasser
Yasser
Arafat
Arafat.
had a chance to have peace
Forget
with
a
Israel.
chance.
Yeah?
Israel is
With the-
actually dropping and killing, and you're saying crushing response.
Crushing
What
response.
crushing response? That's a retarded response.
Well, at the end of the day, that's why Israel's
Come
still
on, they're-
standing.
they're not
and
standing
Hezbollah
for
is
much
destroyed.
longer.
They're not standing, they're bullying people that are trying to rise up. Anyone who speaks against them is being bullied into submission. What are
They
you talking
control the
about?
narrative. They control the world's media,
I
but
know.
not the world,
No,
because
no,
most
that's-
of the world
that's-
they control.
You're
They
right, yeah.
control the Western
So,
media,
long time no
and
see.
through the
Can
control
we-
of the Western media, they think they can control the narrative through mass formation psychosis. But it's not working anymore.
Bro,
Because
I can see
we don't watch the
there's
BBC.
this thing within you. You know what Israel is doing is bad. But then you feel the need to defend them.
You
Be
see,
intellectually
because-
honest, bro.
Because I tell you something, if Israel is not where it is, then
The world
rogue
becomes a happier place.
Rogue nations like Iran,
Ah,
will develop-
rogue nations like Iran.
rogue nations like Iran.
They
will
don't,
develop
they're
nuclear
so
weapons,
responsible.
right?
They don't want to make a nuclear weapon.
Right? Right?
Does Israel have
They-
nuclear weapons?
right? They try to.
Oh, they killed Robert F.
Anyway.
Kennedy because he was trying to stop them getting a nuclear
There
weapon.
was a-
Sorry, John F. Kennedy.
There was a border skirmish. There was a border in Baluchistan. There was a border skirmish between Iranians and Pakistanis.
Right.
And the Pakistani army stood by in 2 or 3 days. They crushed the Iranians. You know, Iran is basically a paper tiger. Right? It says,
They got
basically,
enough
they threw all
missiles
those
to last
they-
every day for a
They
year.
lobbed 180 missiles, and they killed.
You've been listening
they
to
killed
too
an
much of
Arab
that
guy.
joker
It's not even
Martuzzi,
Israel.
isn't he?
Yeah, and then you're saying that's a threat compared to a country committing genocide. You just said they're a paper tiger. They
They-
didn't kill anyone. On the other hand, you have somebody committing genocide, and then you're.
They do bully people. They bully. They
Friend of mine,
They're
brother
the
got
ones
killed
who are
by
responsible for
MI6
building all those
in
tunnels in
Pakistan.
Gaza. They're the ones who are. They're the ones who are responsible for building all the tunnels by Hezbollah.
Do you know originally where those tunnels came from?
No.
Israel
Yeah.
made those tunnels themselves.
In Gaza.
They admitted that on CNN. Even the reporter was caught off guard. She admitted it.
There is some tunnels. You're
No.
talking around the Alps.
Well, let's.
No, what?
Yeah.
No, listen to what I said though.
Massive.
Listen to what I said. I said
You
who,
saw Yahya
who
Sinwar in the
initially
tunnel.
built those tunnels.
But you're
That was
saying
my point.
These tunnels are like a massive network.
Yeah, who initially? Initially, there's only one initial.
Probably is such messy and sloppy language. He's talking, the one that was on CNN was specific tunnels near the Alps.
Yeah, and Israel built them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's like 300 kilometers of
Can I be excused now?
Oh yeah, you can go if you want. It was a nice convo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so we done a nice video. I don't know your name.
Shashad. His name's Shashad.